I never liked sitting in cafes. They always felt too staged, like places people went to prove they weren't lonely. But there I was again, same corner seat, same chipped mug the barista pretended not to notice. I told myself it was just the cheapest place near the laundromat, but I'd been coming back 3 times a week. And lately I knew why. She always sat by the window. Mid-40s, maybe older, with hair that never quite stayed pinned back, always falling loose around her face when she leaned over a book. She didn't dress like she cared to be noticed, loose sweaters, dark jeans, but somehow that made her stand out more. The first time I saw her, she laughed. Not at me, exactly, at my order. I'd asked for a caramel latte, too quickly, tripping over the word like it was embarrassing. She caught the stumble, raised her eyes from her notebook, and just laughed. Quiet, not cruel, more like she was remembering something. "You're too young for that much sugar," she said, still smiling. I didn't answer, only gave a half shrug and walked past. But the sound of it stuck with me the whole night, even after I went home and sat staring at the unsent message I'd been drafting to someone I no longer spoke to. Now, weeks later, I noticed everything. The way she set her cup down with 2 taps of her finger on the handle. The way she stretched her legs under the table when she thought no one was looking. The way she never rushed. Her phone stayed face down, forgotten. That morning, I caught her glance again. Just a flicker, when I sat across the room. I didn't look away fast enough. "You're back," she said, not a question, just an observation. "Yeah. Laundry day." My voice sounded thinner than I wanted. She tilted her head, like she was weighing whether that was the truth. "You must own a lot of clothes." I laughed under my breath, more nervous than amused. "Not really." That was it. Nothing more. But the silence between us didn't feel empty, it stretched, filled with things neither of us said. I tried to read the same page in my book 4 times, failed every time. My eyes kept drifting to her hands, how she underlined phrases with the edge of her fingernail, not even a pen. I folded my napkin once, then again, until it was just a small square I kept pressing flat against the table. At some point, she closed her book, finished her coffee, and stood. She slipped her sweater tighter around her shoulders and looked at me before heading out. "Try black coffee next time. It grows on you." That was the kind of thing you could laugh off, but I didn't. I sat there too long, watching the empty chair across from me like it was holding her shape. By the time I walked outside, she was gone. Just the echo of her laugh, replaying in my head, louder than it had any right to be. I unlocked my phone out of habit, no one to text. Then, somehow, I had one. A number I didn't recognize. One line. "Next Wednesday. Same seat. If you're old enough." I just stood there on the sidewalk, thumb hovering above the screen, wondering how she even knew my number. Wondering if I'd ever drink black coffee again. I showed up on Wednesday. I told myself I wasn't going to, that I'd ignore the text, that maybe it wasn't even her. But I still walked in, same cafe, same corner seat. She was already there. Waiting. "You're late," she said, though I wasn't. "You didn't even know if I'd come." Her smile was quick, almost private, like she hadn't expected me either. I knew. We didn't talk right away. I ordered the black coffee this time, no caramel, and tried not to grimace when it touched my tongue. She noticed, of course. "Terrible, isn't it?" "Awful." "Good. Now you'll keep coming back to try again." It should have sounded like teasing, but there was something behind it, like she wanted me there. Like the seat across from her wasn't just empty, but waiting. At some point, she set her book aside. Not just face down, but closed. That felt significant. "You remind me of my son," she said. Then quickly added, "Not in a bad way. Just, he's 21. About your age." I swallowed, unsure if that closed the distance between us or stretched it further. "He live around here?" She shook her head. "College. Out east." She tapped her cup twice with her finger, a habit I'd started to anticipate. "House feels too big now." I didn't know what to say. I thought about my own apartment, half-empty fridge, messages left unsent, silence broken only by the hum of the fan. Somehow, hers sounded heavier. You live alone too? She asked. Yeah. Just me. Her eyes lingered, like she was weighing something unspoken. I shifted in my seat, rubbed the corner of the folded napkin I'd kept in my pocket like a strange kind of talisman. The age gap hung there, unspoken but loud. I wondered if people looked at us and assumed I was her son. Or worse, if they guessed what I couldn't quite admit even to myself, that I wanted her to keep closing her book for me. She must have noticed the way I stared, because she leaned back and gave me a look that was part challenge, part kindness. Don't read into it too much. I'm just enjoying the company. But her voice dipped a little on the word just, like it betrayed her. The conversation slid into easier things. Her garden, the stubborn rose bush that wouldn't bloom, the time she got caught in a rainstorm without an umbrella. Nothing intimate, not really, but the way she told it, I felt like I was standing there beside her, watching her shake water from her hair. When it was time to leave, we stood at the same moment, almost colliding. She reached out, steadying me with her hand on my forearm. Just a touch, brief, barely pressure at all. But it stayed. Even later, walking home, I could still feel it. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. The next time, it wasn't planned. I walked in late afternoon, rain still dripping from my jacket, and there she was again, window seat, hair pulled back, glasses low on her nose. She looked up, startled. You're soaked. I walked. I shrugged, water running down my sleeve. You could have waited for the storm to pass. Didn't want to. That made her pause. She closed her book, slid it aside. A small thing, but it felt like an invitation. I sat, still dripping, trying not to notice how she was watching me. My hand shook a little as I reached for the mug, not from cold but from being too aware of her. You'll ruin the chair, she said softly. I'll buy them a new one. Her laugh was short, but it didn't reach her eyes this time. For a while, we just listened to the rain. The cafe was emptier than usual, only the hum of the espresso machine filling the space. She broke the silence. People will think something. About us? Her eyes flicked to mine, quick, sharp. Then away. You're young. I'm not. That's all it takes. I couldn't answer. My chest tightened, not with shame but with the fear that she was right. At that moment, the bell over the door jingled. A friend of mine walked in, Sam, from high school. He spotted me instantly. Hey, man! He grinned, stepped over, then glanced at her. The pause was noticeable. His eyes darted between us, curious, almost amused. Didn't know you had company. It's not. I started, but the words tangled. She smiled politely, that practiced smile people use when they want to be invisible. Just neighbors. Neighbors. The word landed like a small, sharp stone in my stomach. Sam didn't linger, but his smirk did. When he left, the air felt different, heavier. She stirred her tea, though it was already gone, the spoon clinking against porcelain. See? That's what I mean. I leaned forward, elbows on the table. Does it matter what they think? Her eyes lifted slowly, and for a second, everything else went quiet, the rain, the voices, even my own pulse. You think it doesn't? She whispered. The words caught in the air between us, fragile, unsteady. My hand twitched, almost reaching across the table, almost closing the space. Almost. But she pulled back first. Not far, just enough. The moment stretched thin, like it could break with a single word. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. She gathered her things, slower than usual, fingers fumbling slightly as she closed her bag. You should get home. You'll catch cold. And then she left, the bell over the door swinging back and forth like a clock I couldn't stop. I sat there long after, my hand still resting on the table, inches from where hers had been. We hadn't spoken in a week. Not after the cafe. Not after her careful word, neighbors, still echoed in my head like it was meant to erase everything else. Then one evening, I saw her outside. She was kneeling in her garden, gloves caked with soil, hair loose and damp with sweat. I almost walked past, pretended I hadn't noticed. But she looked up. "You walk fast," she said, pulling one glove off, brushing her forehead with the back of her wrist. "I was going to the store." "You never go to the store this late." She wasn't wrong. I hesitated, shifted the bag on my shoulder. "Need help?" Her lips parted like she was about to say no, but then she just exhaled. "The hose keeps tangling. I'm tired of fighting it." So I stayed. We worked side by side in silence, the sun slipping down behind the houses, shadows long across the grass. I untangled the hose, she clipped the last of the dead stems. Nothing important. Nothing we couldn't have done alone. But it felt like something anyway. When it was finished, we sat on the porch steps, both of us breathing harder than the work deserved. She took off her gloves, dropped them between us. "You shouldn't spend so much time here," she said, eyes fixed on the yard. "Why not? It'll look wrong." There it was again. Wrong. A word heavy enough to build a wall between us. I stared at my hands, dirt still under my nails. "What if I don't care?" Her head turned quickly, eyes sharp, searching mine like she didn't trust what she'd just heard. For a second, I thought she'd laugh it off. Instead, her voice softened. "You sound like him. My son." I froze. "That's not what I meant." "I know." She sighed, shoulders folding in. "It's just dangerous. Letting anyone in. You get used to being alone, and then one person shows up, and suddenly." She stopped. "Suddenly what?" I asked, almost whispering. Her gaze held mine, steady this time, no retreat. "Suddenly you don't want them to leave." The air went still. I could hear the cicadas in the trees, the faint hum of a TV from the house next door. My heart beat too loud, too fast. I leaned forward slightly. Close enough to see the small lines at the corner of her mouth, the way her fingers curled against her knee like she was holding something back. She didn't move. Didn't stop me. "Are you saying?" I started. Her hand twitched, like she almost reached for mine. Almost. Then she looked away, eyes fixed on the yard again. "You should get your groceries before the store closes." The words landed soft, but they cut all the same. I stood, not ready but with no other choice. She didn't follow, didn't explain. Just sat there, gloves between us, like they marked a line neither of us had the courage to cross. Walking away, I heard her voice again, quieter, almost to herself. "Tell me, what would people say?" I didn't see her for almost 2 weeks. The cafe seat stayed empty, her garden half-tended, mail piling in her box. At first I thought I'd just missed her, different timing, bad luck. But after a while, it felt deliberate. I stopped going every day. Told myself I had better things to do. But each time I passed her house, my eyes drifted to the porch, searching for her sweater hung on the chair, her gloves tossed on the step. Nothing. One night, walking home, I finally saw her. She was in her driveway, talking to someone. A man, older, well-dressed, leaning against his car like he belonged there. They laughed, her head tilted in a way I hadn't seen before. Something inside me froze. I slowed my steps, kept to the shadows, but she must have felt me. Her eyes flicked across the street, caught mine. Just for a second. Then she looked away, back at him. I didn't stop. Didn't wave. Just kept walking. That night I opened my phone, typed a message, "Everything okay? Haven't seen you." I stared at the words until the screen dimmed. Then I deleted them. The next afternoon, she was at the cafe again. Same window seat. Same book. Like nothing had happened. "You disappeared," I said, sliding into the chair opposite her before I could think better of it. "So did you." Her tone was light, but her eyes didn't match. "I saw you. With someone." She paused, closing her book carefully, aligning it with the edge of the table. "An old friend. Nothing more." I wanted to believe her. Maybe I did. But the silence stretched too long. "You don't have to explain," I said finally. "Good," she answered, but the words sounded tired, not sharp. We sat there, both pretending the coffee was enough reason to share a table. I noticed she didn't tap her cup this time. Her hands stayed folded in her lap, still. When I left, I thought about asking if she wanted a ride, or to walk together, or anything that would hold her in the same orbit as me for just a little longer. But the words didn't come. Back in my apartment, I opened my phone again. Typed a new message. "Do you want me to stop coming?" I didn't send it. Just stared at the blinking cursor, waiting for something that never arrived. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused. Like life forgot to finish the sentence. And maybe she was the one holding the rest of it back. It happened on her doorstep. Not planned, not timed. I'd gone for a walk late, trying to wear out the restless loops in my head, and found myself stopping in front of her house. Porch light on. Curtains half drawn. I almost kept going. Almost. But then the door opened. She stepped out, sweater pulled close against the night air, and froze when she saw me. "You shouldn't be here," she said softly. "I know." We stood in silence. Crickets in the grass, a car passing in the distance. The kind of quiet that asked for something more. Finally, I said it. "I don't know what this is. I just know I don't want it to stop." Her arms tightened around herself. For a second, I thought she'd laugh, brush it off, remind me of the gap between us. Instead, her voice cracked the quiet. "You think I don't feel it too?" That stopped me. She took a step closer, enough that I could see the lines by her eyes, the tiredness there. "But I'm scared. I've already lost too much. I can't afford another mistake." My throat tightened. "What if it's not a mistake?" Her laugh was faint, almost bitter. "That's exactly what I used to tell myself. With my marriage. With people I trusted." She shook her head. "You're too young to understand what that costs." I wanted to argue. To tell her I wasn't a boy, that my age wasn't the whole of me. But the words felt thin compared to her truth. So I did the only thing I could. I stayed quiet. The silence stretched. She shifted, as if deciding whether to retreat back into the house. My chest felt heavy, like the moment might collapse and end us both. Then she sighed. Soft. Resigned. "And yet here you are." Her hand moved before her words did, just a small reach, fingers brushing my sleeve. Not a grab, not a pull. Just contact. It was enough. I placed my hand over hers, tentative, waiting for her to flinch, to pull away. She didn't. Her eyes lifted, meeting mine, and for the first time there wasn't any defense in them. Just weariness. And something else. "I can't promise you anything," she whispered. "I'm not asking you to," I said. Her lips curved then, not a smile exactly, more like the beginning of one. She gave a small nod, like she'd finally allowed herself to stop running. Okay. That was it. No kiss, no confession that tied everything neatly together. Just a hand resting on mine, a word fragile as glass. But in that moment, it was everything. Time didn't change everything at once. It never does. I still walked too fast. She still sat by the window, book tilted, tea cooling before she finished it. Some mornings I caught myself leaving my apartment earlier than needed, just to pass her house and see if the porch light was still on. We never announced anything. No declarations, no labels. Just presence. It began with small habits. A knock on my door when her garden hose jammed again. A thermos of tea she'd hand me on my way to the laundromat, shaking her head at my black coffee. Sometimes we'd walk together in silence, not toward anywhere special, just walking, like the point was the steps themselves. There were moments I thought she might vanish again. Long stretches where she pulled inward, quiet, almost retreating. But each time, she'd return in her own way, an umbrella handed over when it rained, a book left on my doorstep with a note. "This one doesn't end where you think it will." I never asked who the man in the driveway was. She never asked about the unsent texts I stopped drafting late at night. Some things we let be. Months passed before I noticed the shift. It wasn't dramatic. Just the way she lingered at the cafe after finishing her tea, waiting for me to close my book. The way her hand brushed mine on the park bench, either of us moving it away this time. The way she no longer told me I was too young, and I no longer felt the need to argue. One morning, I looked at the clock, 8:47 a.m. My laundry was tumbling in the machine, and she was there beside me on the bench outside the laundromat, sipping tea from her thermos. Not talking. Not needing to. And it hit me, life wasn't paused anymore. It hadn't resolved, not in a perfect way, but in something quieter, steadier. She caught me staring and raised an eyebrow. What? Nothing, I said, smiling into my coffee. But she held my gaze a moment longer, the corner of her mouth tilting, like she knew exactly what I meant. That's how it was with us. Not fireworks. Not promises. Just two people who chose, again and again, to show up in the same places, to stay. And maybe that was the point. When I think back on it, I don't remember the big words or even the touch on her porch. I remember the small things, the folded napkin, the tea, the clock ticking at 8:47. The kinds of details that don't matter to anyone else. But to us, they meant everything. Did this story stay with you? What kind of quiet, real love stories do you want to hear next?